Fala pessoal, o papo de hoje é com Cloud9 e Fudge, Cloud9 que já está nesse formato suíço e eles estão aqui na Coreia já faz um mês utilizando aqui as facilities da Sandbox. Então, cara, Cloud9 já está treinando há um bom tempo, tem esse sonho de levar a LCS mais adiante no Mundial e o papo de hoje então é com Fudge. Fudge, você veio da UPL, né? Talvez tenha uma galera aí que não lembre como que foi essa trajetória do Fudge, mas você conseguiu essa trajetória de entrada na LCS. Então conta um pouquinho pra gente como que foi essa sua entrada, como foi esse seu caminho aí pra chegar na Cloud9.
For OPL players, back then especially, they were all trying to get into NA or EU teams just because there's a lot more money, there's a lot more fans, and OPL is not really a lot of involvement in like the esports scene from just like Australians in general. So everyone was sort of trying to get imported to other regions. And I was really lucky because one of my friends who was on my team, King, on Mammoth, which was the team that I played on the OPL, got on C9 and they needed a top laner. And luckily I got on the Academy team and then I was able to prove myself from then to get into the LCS, and it was a very like scary time back then because you don't really know which, like you see all your friends like going to NA and then you're like stuck in Australia and you want to go to NA but you can't, or you want to go to EU but you can't, and then I got thankfully onto a team and I was able to improve from there.
E uma coisa, acho que sempre jogar em outra região deve ser uma tarefa muito difícil. Qual foi, sei lá, a coisa mais complicada nessa sua trajetória? Qual foi o principal desafio que você encontrou?
So obviously I was still really young, like 17 or like 18. I think I was still 17 when I first went to North America, and obviously I was still young and I missed my family a lot because I was going really far away. I had like no friends in America at all. So plus I was also really bad. Like compared to all the competition, I was really bad back then compared to even the Academy top laners. So I got there and I sort of just played really poorly. It was a hard time, like very stressful because I felt like I was, just not good enough to play there. And I didn't really have any like emotional support from anyone. So it was stressful for the first like 6 months, but then eventually I got really good and I was able to beat all the other top laners in the Academy. And once I started like playing well, you don't really feel so much stress in general. Like you're just happy that you're winning, and because I won, I mean, I was fine.
E uma das coisas que está rolando muito no CBLOL é trazer jogadores do Academy para o campeonato principal. No NA, você que veio de lá também do Academy, tá rolando um pouco disso também ou simplesmente os jogadores mais antigos ainda persistem dentro da competição?
I mean, it's not too much. I think NA as a region actually doesn't bring too many Academy players up. But there are like certain players, like obviously there was Jojo Pyun, there was Danny, there was me. Honestly, I can't even think of that many other ones other than that are like known, really well known. There was Yon, I guess, APA on Team Liquid that I can think of. And obviously like there's a lot of like talk in the community about like the academy system in NA. So it's like a very complicated subject, but I think there definitely are players from Academy that can just come into the LCS or come into the main Brazilian league and just play really well and actually be better than the veterans.
Yeah.
Because they have that drive, they have the passion to improve, and that's actually more important than the experience, in my opinion.
E Fudge, uma das coisas que o nosso jogador, o maior campeão de todos do Brasil, o Robo, fala é que ele tem um sonho de jogar internacionalmente. Você treinou contra a Loud, então treinou também contra o Robo. O que você acha desse sonho dele? Você acha que ele tem um nível para chegar um dia numa LCS ou numa LEC, quem sabe?
I mean, I didn't know that he was planning on trying to come to LCS as LEC.
Yeah,
I mean, I think realistically, he can definitely make it to the LCS or LEC. I think right now, it's hard to tell because you only really see him when he's playing against Worlds teams for an NA or EU team. So obviously Loud doesn't win like in like all the Worlds games. So just as a top laner especially, it's hard to look good when your team's losing, which is unfortunate. But I think that when I lane against him, I think that he's better than majority of the LCS top laners. Obviously, when I come here, I'm also like practicing against the LCK, LPL top laners, so I'm more in form. So I would say that he'd definitely be able to come to the LCS and be like top 5
E a gente viu que teve esse treino com a Loud realmente. Como é que ficou o nível da Loud para você? Você acha que eles mostraram todo o potencial que eles têm dentro do stage? Ou na screen eles ainda mostraram mais coisa e ainda tem um teto maior a evoluir?
I mean, I think that honestly, when they play on stage, when I watch them, I don't think that they're playing so bad. Like, there's like obviously like little mistakes that make them like just lose against like, for example, the PSG series, but I didn't think that they're like fundamentally like that bad at the game. And in scrims, I think that they're playing like probably less disciplined, to be honest, than on stage. And I think most teams just play more disciplined on stage and they play a little bit better on stage. But I think that fundamentally as players and as a team, they play well together.
E agora sobre esse novo formato do Mundial 2023, você acha que esse formato suíço ajuda um pouco mais os times do Ocidente a chegarem adiante e passarem de fase?
I mean, I think it'll help the Western teams win a couple games because you're going to be playing against other like teams that also lost. But I'm not sure if it'll help them get to quarterfinals. But I mean, it won't feel as bad as going 0-6, right, for some of the Western teams because they're obviously going to win some games. I just don't think it's really going to make you get to quarterfinals.
Oh, that's a statement, right? That's a statement. And like,
oh, I'm not saying that Cloud9 is not going to get to quarterfinals. But you know, Western teams in general.
Relax. E vocês quase fizeram uma dinastia lá na LCS, né? Vocês ganharam o segundo split do ano passado, ganharam esse primeiro split, foram pra MSI, mas chegando ali na hora de levantar a taça, no último jogo, vocês acabaram não ganhando da NRG. O que aconteceu nessa etapa pra vocês? O que deu de errado naquela final?
I think we got a little bit relaxed because obviously we were very comfortable with like winning 2 splits in a row, and then in the regular season of Summer Split we were just better than everyone else. And I think we definitely got a little bit relaxed, and it's really hard not to get relaxed because you just play scrims, and in scrims you win every scrim, and then you win every stage game, and you win every playoff game until finals, and then you go to finals, and it felt like we were sort of not on top of everything and made a lot of like pretty big mistakes.
Get to the first place is like easier than stay in the first place.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure. It's just hard to you know stay on top and stay really disciplined for so long, and I think that really showed in Summer Split finals, especially where we were just not on top of a lot of very obvious mistakes that were still happening when we were winning, but we were kind of able to just ignore them because we were winning. And I think that's probably the biggest problem that we had going into finals.
Aqui no Mundial a gente tem grandes top laners, né? A gente tem o Zeus, a gente tem o The Shy, a gente tem 369, Bin, muitos caras muito bons. Como é que tá o seu nível agora em relação aos top laners do Mundial?
I actually think this is only based off scrims. Obviously, like off of scrims, I feel like a lot of the top laners are like actually not that like insane where they don't make mistakes. They definitely make a lot of mistakes in scrims. Playing against Keen, I thought he was the best top laner by far. Yeah. And all the other top laners I felt like were quite beatable for me, honestly, in scrims. Obviously in scrims I think that especially like the top laners play really crazy and they just die a lot and they don't really care. So it's hard to really compare the scrims and stage.
E vocês já estão aqui há um mês, né, treinando na Coreia. Como é que vem sendo esse tempo? Como é que está sendo a evolução da Cloud9 agora para finalmente entrar e jogar com um dos melhores times do mundo?
I mean, it's always the same thing really. You go and you play against the Korean and Chinese teams and it's hard. But I think that our approach has been better this Worlds, where we're more willing to go into like the arguments and have more discussion, and even if it's uncomfortable, we still try to improve the most rather than just ignore the problems and just be like, it's okay, and just like move on, you know?
Fudge, thank you so much for the interview. E assim ficou nosso papo com o Fudge, rapaziada, cara muito gente fina, gostei muito. Agora tenho certeza que um pedacinho do CBLOL vai torcer pra Cloud9. Esse aqui foi o nosso papo com ele, até mais!